This is not just a story about space. It's a story about the love of space and a young girl's passion for learning about the universe and the mysteries of our solar system. And it's about how one Christmas became her best one ever. The Christmas season has a long tradition of showing the world that gifts of peace and love are what's most important. Being together with family and friends is one simple gift of life that is often taken for granted. It is this gift of times together that we later cherish in our memories throughout our lives.
Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might have the wish I wish tonight.
One clear summer night, my father showed me a star map. He set the dial's arrow to 7 p.m., pointed it north, and had me align it to the North Star, Polaris. That was easy. I went searching for constellations. Some were easy to find. I was out alone all night, identifying as many as I could. It seemed the sky was moving, but Dad said we were moving in it. Somehow that made sense. I remember today how thrilled I was to identify them. Scorpio, Sagittarius, and the triangle ones, Aquila, Lyra, and Cygnus. I cried when the sun came up and wanted to discover more. I was 8. Until then, I wanted to be a ballerina. But now, hoped that that man zipping through the cosmos in a red suit and black boots might bring me the only thing I wanted. A telescope of my very own. They said he'd come from the North Pole. I pictured Santa starting his rounds, riding through the Aurora Borealis, and wondered then, if I had a telescope, could I see him coming?
Well, the weather outside is frightful. Today, advice comes from the governor himself, no less. He's telling us do not travel tomorrow unless it's an emergency. And those who do may be creating an emergency themselves, and to not expect help very quickly if they get stuck. Already, some people north of town have been sitting in their snowed-in cars for hours at the side of the road, waiting for assistance. So don't travel today unless absolutely necessary. So that about says it. This is the record snowfall of the past 80 years, and we heard from the airport that they're about to close. Although all flights have gotten in so far today, that won't be the case tomorrow. Roads north of town are already closed, and the governor said he's considering closing the interstate to the south. As the evening continues, we'll keep you updated, right here on Sky Team 5 Eye in the Sky Storm Tracker. And now, back to our program.
The stars in my eyes guided me to college. I had plans and dreams, working towards my goals without really knowing how far I could go. In college, studying planetary science, I'd quit feeling like a kid. But even though I felt like I was growing up and on my own, I missed home. It was an exciting time. With the infinite universe out there to learn about, everything seemed possible, including getting into NASA. Except, for the first time, I wouldn't be home for Christmas. All my classmates left the day before that record-breaking storm hit. I'd stayed to finish my term paper about the Pleiades. I liked its other name, the Seven Sisters. It had to be perfect. If Google had existed then, it would have been easier. I was happy working on that. I'd applied to NASA for an interview and hoped to hear back from them soon. When I was 13, Sally Ride became the first woman in space. And at 14, I got to go to a Discovery launch. The next year, my dad took me to Mexico for a full lunar eclipse. When the moon's shadow raced across the hot, dusty desert at 1,000 miles per hour right at us, and it became a gray night for 7 minutes. That settled it. I wanted to know about space. I had just read a bunch of different descriptions of black holes and realized no one had the same idea about them. I wanted to find out who was really right and find my own ideas about them. Someday, they might add mine to one of the many opinions, and my dorm was mouse quiet. Everyone gone, no party to go to or cookies to lay out. I didn't need a party. There was work to do, and my favorite Christmas music was playing on TV. That music made me feel at home. It seemed a long time since that star map. I grew up in the wonderful small town of Rupert, Idaho, known even then as Christmas City. On clear nights, I spent my time scanning the skies, finding constellations with my star map. I was reading every book about the universe I could find, drawing planets and the moon. My mom told people her head's in the stars. That was fine with me. I even had glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling above my bed. One tough winter would affect my whole life. My grades were good. I helped Mom like I should, and was usually even nice to my dinosaur-loving brother. And besides, I knew he wanted to be tickled. I was looking forward to our usual family Christmas party. Food, laughs, and music. Uncle Bill with his ukulele, and everyone would sing out of tune. I thought there was a chance to get that one thing I wanted for Christmas. I might get that telescope. Things were looking good for that even before Thanksgiving. And then things changed. The week before Christmas, my dad came home from work. He was very quiet and looked worried. His store had been sold, and he didn't know if he would still have a job after Christmas. His heart was in that store. We grew up in that store. He'd worked there as long as I could remember. Would it be made into something different, or maybe torn down? What would my dad do now? No one knew. My parents did their best to look on the bright side, pretending not to worry, but I could tell they were pretending. I figured the only telescope I'd see now would be in a catalog. Money was already tight. Dad worked long days all that week, but would be home early Christmas Eve, his last day. Almost every night I'd play my favorite tape to go to sleep, to an astronomer telling about planets, stars, the universe, the cosmos. And I always felt he was talking just to me. With the house bright and full of cheer, the tree perfect, Mom's cooking smells filled the house. In my favorite cozy pajamas, I waited impatiently for my dad to get home. He was late, and it was Christmas Eve. The store's future still uncertain, Dad came home much later than expected. Finally, Dad came in, helping a mystery man. The man said he was visiting from out of town and had slipped on the ice outside the store, hit his head, and couldn't get up until my dad came along. Dad insisted on bringing him home to get bandaged, fed, and to warm up. I told this nice man I wanted to study cosmology. He said being a hairstylist was a nice career for a young woman to get into. He thought I had said cosmetology, but I made sure he knew I meant a study of the cosmos, space, showing him my About the Universe book. He was more impressed with that. After we finished dinner, they offered to take him to a doctor. He smiled, thanking us all for the help and kindness, and said he was feeling better. Dad turned down the man's offer of money as the cab he'd called arrived, and we all separately gave Christmas wishes to him. Mom insisted he take some just out of the oven cookies. Right then, the oven made a popping noise. After inspecting it, Dad said yes, the cookies were done, but so was the oven. As the man left, cookies in hand, Dad announced to us, "Cookie time!" Even though it was going to be Christmas without an oven, we had each other, a new friend, a great tree. And I went to bed thinking about how fortunate I was for that. Even though there was no hope of a telescope under this year's tree, it was a great gift to know that my family was so important, and that we had helped someone in need. Of course, we saved enough cookies for Santa. I left him some of mine, just in case. I hope to dream about the stars again. I played my tape, Orion's belt this time, telling me about stars forming and...
Our ancestors created myths and legends surrounding Orion's majestic formation and built mysterious earthly structures, monuments, and the pattern of Orion in its belt. All over the world, archaeologists are still discovering ancient structures today that reflect the beliefs of the ancients. Indigenous cultures worldwide share a common theme that Earth has been visited by beings from the sky that helped the Creator establish new civilizations. Many groups believe these beings arrived from the star constellation Orion. In the northern hemisphere, Orion resembles a hunter figure with a belt and a hanging sword sheath. But when viewed from the southern hemisphere, it's upside down and reversed, and resembles a saucepan or a pot. With modern-day technology and progress of the telescopic technology, scientists can probe deeper and deeper into the Orion Nebula, now discovering breathtaking images and unlocking cosmic secrets within this stellar nursery, and secrets that have been hidden since the origins of man. More is being discovered every year. This birthplace of wondrous stars dates back to the beginning of our universe and shows us how stars begin their journey of life. Perhaps one day, our descendants will have the opportunity to explore and even colonize the Orion Nebula. It is no longer just science fiction.
I woke up to last night's stranger, who now introduced himself as the new store owner. He'd bought the store the previous month and was making changes. It would be called Empire Mercantile. Dad would now be in charge, with a big raise, have his own office, and he handed him new keys. Then, 2 delivery men behind him brought in a shiny, brand new oven. The man asked if any cookies were left, and then directed another delivery man in. I couldn't believe it. A complete 5-inch reflecting telescope. Dad said, "Well, Santa doesn't always wear a red suit and black boots." The old man laughed the loudest and remarked, "True." I was already thinking about that night with the real stars. It was supposed to be clear, and without summer's hot air, winter stars were easier to see in the cold winter air. They held still. I dozed off just waiting for the next day to come and turn into night. I wanted to check out the Pleiades like Galileo had, to see what he discovered. It took 440 years for their light to get here. I'd thought a light year was when it didn't snow very much, but learned it was how far light travels in 1 year. People called it by different names. My favorite was the 7 Sisters.
Throughout the centuries, cultures around the world have called it by many different names. The 7 Sisters, Subura, Nahib, M45, the Pleiades. When you gaze with your naked eyes at the stars belonging to the constellation Taurus, it seems like only 7 stars make up the cluster. It was over 400 years ago Galileo saw it wasn't just 7 stars making the cluster. He discovered 36 stars with his telescope. You wonder what it must have felt like for Galileo, the first astronomer to use a telescope, as he studied what no one had seen before. And now, today's astronomers estimate there are over 400 stars. There are so many more stars than what our naked eyes can see. But because of new technology, they've discovered more than ever imagined. What will we discover with the technology of future generations? New planets, stars, nebula, cosmic anomalies. There are a lot of surprises in our skies yet to be found. Our dreams are fueled by the unknown.
With only one payphone in the whole room, calling home was difficult. It was way before cell phones and texting. That would make it easy. I'd finally slept. Then, with the TV's music blaring, in a fog of applause at the end of the song, there were noises. I finally figured out weren't part of the show. Okay. I'd finally slept. Then, with the TV's music blaring and a fog of applause at the end of the song, there were noises I finally figured out weren't part of the show. I could tell it was more than one person at my door, all chattering away and singing out of tune in a familiar way. My whole family poured in. Dad with the small tree. Its lights soon filled the room with presents, cookies, and a pie. And the sound of a ukulele was coming up from down the hall. My mom said it wouldn't be Christmas without me. Theirs was the last flight to get in. And Uncle Bill picked them up just before the interstate closed. Mom handed me a letter that had come the week before. It was from NASA. They wanted to interview me. I realized then one of the best simple gifts of Christmas, often overlooked, is time spent with loved ones and family friends and to share in our adventures in life. Yes, I'm so sorry. I know I'm turning away looking. Okay, one more time. My mom said it wouldn't be Christmas without me. Theirs was the last flight to get in, and Uncle Bill picked them up just before the interstate closed. Mom handed me a letter that had come in the week before. It was from NASA. They wanted to interview me. I realized then one of the best simple gifts of Christmas, often overlooked, is time spent with the loved one. I realized then that one of the best simple gifts of Christmas, often overlooked, is
That's
time
the story
spent
of how
with
Mary
loved ones
pursued her
and family
dreams about
friends
space,
and
and how she
to
learned
share
that
in
one
our
of the
adventures
best
in
simple
life.
gifts of Christmas is one you both get and give: time with your loved ones. It doesn't matter where it is, as long as the family is together
share
and friends
in
are
our
around in
adventures
this,
in
the often
life.
coldest and yet warmest time of the year. And remember, you can pursue your own
Do you want to
dreams
get
to make
overlays
your
or do you
wishes
want to do
come
the...
true, and that it may even take
I
you
know.
to the stars. But for now, let's
Oh,
go
it's
on a
just
ride
like
through
snippets,
the
isn't it?
cosmos.
Okay.